Hey y'all. So we're back at it again. Hold on, okay. Hey
Hey
Clay.
Trace, how you doing?
Good morning. Your hair is looking fabulous this morning.
Thanks. Yes, this is as you know, we came up with this kind of at the last minute, so this is literally out of bed hair.
I mean, hey,
Um,
glorious.
is great to see you as always.
You as well.
Um, and I wanted to welcome everybody. I'm going to be real quick. I'm Clay Williams, one of the co-founders of Black Food Folks. Um, and hello, London. Um, And I just want to give some quick highlights of what we're going to be working on in the next week. First, and this isn't even ours, but Therese is going to be on Black F&B on, was it Wednesday?
Yep. Yep.
You
At
want
1:30.
at 1:30 Chicago time?
Yeah. So 2:30 Eastern.
2:30 Eastern, right. And so, you want to give a quick talk about what that's about?
Yes. Dr. Marsha Chatelain, who wrote the really brilliant book Franchises. It came out a little early this year, late last year. And her book tour has gotten halted because the world stopped. But
Right.
the book is so timely and so interesting. It's just really interesting deep dive on McDonald's and sort of franchises in our community. So it's a food book, but not a food book. It's just brilliant. I'm going to be able to talk with her for about an hour about how brilliant that work really is.
I'm excited for that. That should be really
Yeah.
cool. Hey, Nina. Yeah, so that is happening on Black F&B on Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern time. And then on Black Food Folks, we have a few talks coming up in the next week that I think are going to be pretty interesting. This afternoon at 1, we've got Amber Mayfield of To Be Hosted and While Entertaining Magazine um, talking with Javelle Frazier.
Awesome.
Later this afternoon, Colleen is going to be talking with Tanya and David Thomas, formerly of Ida
Awesome.
B's Table, now of Modern Soul. Tomorrow, Naisha Arrington is going to be speaking with Aretta, which I'm really excited for. That's going to be later in the afternoon. Osai has a couple talks coming, including on Wednesday, she's talking with Ashton Berry. And next week, she's going to be talking with Tunde Wei.
Nice.
Omar has, on Friday, Omar is going to be speaking with Enrica Williams from
Ooh,
down in Mississippi
that's
about the foodways going on down there. And next week, we've got Crystal Mack on Monday. I'm going to be doing a Zoom talk with Kasimu Harris about his
I was looking
show
forward.
on disappearing black bars and lounges. And Nicole Taylor is going to be talking next Wednesday with Dr. Jessica Harris about her new project.
Hey,
So yeah, so we've got a lot coming up. I've taken up enough time. We want to get into the conversation with Chef Matthew and Jovan, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Afropunk, and remember to come and check out the talks we're having on Black Food Folks as well. All right,
that's
have a
right.
great week, y'all.
Awesome. So cool. So please go over to Black Food Folks so to follow their feed. So much good content all week long. But right now, I'm going to bring in Chef Matt and Jovan. Hey,
Hey,
good to see your face.
what's up? How you doing?
Really, really good. How are you all doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Devon should be jumping on in a moment.
Okay.
Yep.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you for doing this. When Black Food Folks and this collaboration came up, um, we really wanted to have it be this kind of not sober, but definitely honest conversation about what the state of Black food is right now, what it is to be doing this work in this climate, and the folks we wanted to talk to were like the wish list was really lofty, and so you guys were certainly on top of that list. So thank you. That
Thank you.
first, but I have admired you for so long. I have been a stan since culinary school of the work you do, and I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you specifically was because it feels to me like you and Jovan have tapped into what doing this work in the most sort of holistic and unbothered way possible looks like, and you were doing it like before this moment, and certainly before it was attractive in the zeitgeist, right? It's not just a catchphrase or
Right.
idea. It's not kitschy. It's not romantic. It's a legitimate frame posture of operating in the world. So
Definitely,
people
definitely.
who maybe don't know you, don't know your work, I
Uh-huh.
want you to just talk about, I guess, where your culinary trajectory has been, and like when that aha moment was to like, I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah, and my career was kind of interesting because I think Javon's trying to get on. I think I saw her say, "Hey, hey." Anyway, so my whole thing kind of started off with me going to. Well, I went to the military first. Did 10 years in the military. Nothing that cooking at all. But everybody I met would always, "Man, ain't you from Georgia?" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "Oh man, I haven't had this." And I was like, "How to cook that?" Da, 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 da. But I kind of, so by the time I went to culinary school, I was old. So like trying to figure out how I would work with a mentor or any of that. There weren't any Black mentors at all days. Hard. I mean, there were a few, but none I really knew about. Like, so I was like, you know what? Let me go. You know what I'm saying? I already know how to cook, so good, right? And so my career, and I was raised here on our family farm. A lot of things that I did, you know, like everything didn't even grow up like that. So, I'm a child of like all of the 70s and the 80s, So we didn't go shopping all the time. Like, we had too many numbers. We were all bartering. Like somebody was always doing that. So I with the family always growing for cooking. Always. Yeah. So that's kind of like how my trajectory got started. And, it's really interesting. I remember, oh shoot, it's been over a decade when my Nana came and, for years she'd been like, well, what are we going to do with all this land, baby? And I was like, well, Nana, y'all should go back to farming because that's what y'all know how to do. And I've told the
Mm-hmm.
story like 1,000 times because she was all of a sudden sitting with us and was like, baby, what we going to do with all this land? And for some reason, it just welled up in me. And I was like, well, Nana, we need to start farming it. And she gift deeded my sister and I land. And the rest is history. Like I've been on this land my whole life pretty much in some shape, form, or fashion. And this is the Southeast. So, there are lots of parts of the country that wouldn't even understand. Like we already had a 90-degree day already.
Right.
It's 86 right now outside. So yeah.
So we jumped right in, but just for clarity, you guys you run Gilliard Farms
Gilliard
in
Farms. Mhm.
Brunswick, Georgia.
Brunswick, Georgia. Yep.
Is that,
Yep.
so you're talking about Savannah area, definitely like sort of low country, but like that
Yeah,
Georgia
below.
contention.
Below
Yeah.
below Savannah. We're 29 miles from the Florida state line.
Okay. So
Yep.
it's I mean, I mean, when I remember you working, you went from living in Washington D.C.,
Yep.
sort of coming to this. I think you were working St. Simon's Island,
Little St.
for a
Simons.
minute, but like,
Hmm.
yeah, but like that. Talk about Georgia and like that low country. Let's talk about that the area that Brunswick is in, that sort of
Yeah,
spirit for a minute,
well,
because it's
I
a
fall under
particular place. Right?
I fall underneath that Gullah Geechee corridor. So my people are part of those folks from West Africa that were brought to this area. From my farm to Igbo Landing is less than 15 minutes. So I know there's plenty of people on here right now that are familiar with the story of Igbo and the slaves walking back in, or the enslaved saying, well, weren't even enslaved yet. The folks that they brought that were like, we're not going to be enslaved. We'd rather go back. And so, so that's like 15 minutes from our farm. And so, yeah, this area is hella hot. It's very subtropical. Right now, we just planted avocado and banana trees this year, which we hadn't done before. We grow hibiscus. We got corn, peppers, tomatoes, onions, garlic. I mean, you name it, we got it in the ground. A farmer over from us is growing Silver Queen corn, so I didn't grow corn this year. And I'm growing watermelon because he's not growing watermelon this year. So there's things like that we throw back and forth. So yeah.
I'm interested also in, because you run the farm, but you also have a restaurant. Sage had, I
Had
mean, had the
a
restaurant.
restaurant. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Jovan is, with her holistic practice, is sort of using the farm like as the
The real
root
jump
of
off.
that. Right.
Yeah. I don't know where she is right now. I thought she'd be on by now, but
So I can only on it's tricky because Instagram you can only add one person at a time. So I
no
thought you guys would
problem.
be okay.
No worries. No, I apologize. Well, here's what we can do also. I mean, I don't want to take up all of it, but I'll get the conversation going about Jovan, and then you can
Mhm.
pull her on. Does that work?
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So with Jovan is just amazing. She is a amazing birth worker. She's a doula. She does fertility. She does postpartum. She does all of
Mm-hmm.
that. She's also a master herbalist, and she's just amazing when it comes to stuff like that. And one of the things that we've definitely kind of like honed in on is what is indigenous to our area and what can be used in our area, for everything from our own personal respiratory, our own stress soothers. Just the other day, Jovan, we were out at the farm, and Jovan found St. John's wort, and that was just us just walking around. We have a big giant mullein plant that's growing in the same place that I think it's been growing since I was a kid. I just walked over and was like, we got mullein on the farm, and Jovan was like, where? And I just walked there too, and it was like, it's right here. Like I knew what it was, you know. We have wild staghorn sumac that grows on the farm, wisteria, mimosa. So she does flower tinctures also, flower essences, excuse me, also. So yeah, I mean, we try to take everything that we have to make it work. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many acres are you guys on? I think I always like I'm
Oh,
so distracted.
so the land's been in my family since 1874. I'm the sixth generation to be on it farming. My children are the seventh to have planted, harvested, and eaten from a crop off of our land. And then I have a little cousin that is now the eighth generation
Awesome.
to actually have planted, harvesting from a crop off that land. And he's about to turn 4. He actually planted strawberries with us 2 years ago when he was like 2. Then he came back and helped us harvest them. And then he consistently goes out there to check on those. We start off with 30 plants. Now we have almost 150. But strawberry season comes, that boy is like, where's my strawberries? Where's my strawberries? Like he knows. He even knows that there's a season to it. So, I mean, I think a lot of that is just we're trying to make it innate, like part of us, and then
Yep.
spark it to come out because, you know, we are people from the earth, you know what I'm saying? And I think that we have a lot in our DNA that has been suppressed, and needs to be open,
Mm-hmm.
from our heart chakras on, so that we can just pull some of those things in. Like there are things that I learned when I was a child, that now I do on the farm, and I have to I have to say to myself, I've never done this before. I don't remember doing this before. Why am I doing this like this? And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, my great granddaddy showed me how to do this. But we talking 40 something years ago that this happened. So I think we have to be open to nature, open to the environment, and open to becoming greater than ourselves, you know, doing something
Mm-hmm.
bigger than ourselves. Yeah,
I mean, I think when I hear you talk over the years, just talking about your lifestyle now, how the breath of fresh air, like the deep breath you can take, the sort of the posture you live your life with is so inspiring to watch. And I think especially now, people sort of recalibrating, like reimagining what is important to them, what life could look
definitely.
like. And you
Yeah.
guys are like really interesting example of what that looks like on day to day.
Well, we're trying to, one of the things that we're trying to promote is, getting people to understand that saving seed and planting seed and doing all that is something that we've always done, that it's not brand new. And we should stop
Mm-hmm.
letting people tell us that it's brand new or try to teach us like it's brand new. But we should, though, be open and accepted to what it is that they are teaching, but not act like it's brand new. And
Right.
I think that there's all different kinds of composting methods that are out there, and I'm gonna use our composting method the best. And there'll be people that be listening to say, "Well, nah, you can't put that in there," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can, because that's what people used to do." So the old thing used to be that we learned about how the Pilgrims were able to survive was that the indigenous people that were here before us showed them how to plant corn. They showed them how to plant corn by using a fish head and an ear of corn to grow it. And we do that exact same process here, but we just take the fish and turn it into compost. So we use that. We use horse manure. We use wood scraps and all that, wood chips, wood shavings, mulch, all that kind of good, coffee grounds, and any
Mm-hmm.
kind of green that we can get from cutting the grass or whatever to create our compost. So we've had lots of people be like, I don't know how y'all can do that. That would stink, blah, blah. And I was like, it does when it starts off, but if you're doing it right, letting it get air to it, doing all the things you're supposed to do, it never gets that bad, right? And it also, you got to go through some ish to get the good stuff anyway. So just do what you got to do. Well, I do that so I don't have to pay for a fish emulsion. I don't have to pay for bone meal. I don't have to pay like the things that people have to go and pay for. I get all that. I got the bones from the fish. I got the like all the nasty stuff that ends up getting broken down to provide nitrogen and calcium and potassium and all those, the magnesium, all like we put all of that in there. And I think that that's those things that we have to like have those conversations with each other. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's the city mouse talking to the country mouse or the country mouse talking to the city mouse,
Mm-hmm.
and start
Yep.
sharing that stuff back and forth. Because I told somebody the other day, I was like, you can get a pickle bucket from Firehouse Subs for $2. I was like, after that and some soil and some peat moss, and guess what? You got cucumbers and tomatoes. There's no
Right.
reason for you to be saying, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't have enough land. No, you just need a bucket. Start with a bucket if that's all you know how to do. And then I'll tell as many black folks as I possibly can. Black folks need to have a lust for land. We need to
Mm.
want to have land. We need to
Mm.
want to be able to be on the land. Now, I'll tell you something that somebody told me when I first moved home and told them I was farming. The first response was, "You getting ready to go home and do that slave work?" And I was like, wait.
Wow.
So I own the land, and land is power. So I
What are
don't
you
get where
talking
that comes from, right?
about?
Like a house on a little quarter-acre of land, that's you starting. When you got land, you got power. A house just allows you to get some money. When you got land, you can affect taxes. You can have conversations. People work with you differently, you know?
Right.
And I think that black folks really got to wake up to that thought process of having a lust for land. God ain't making
Mm.
no more land. So
Yep.
whatever's out here, we need to, and I just believe that, right? And then that's how you become sustainable. That's how you become self-sufficient. That's how you become resilient. That's how you provide the resistance. That's how true freedom is gained. And
That's right.
so that is one of the blessings that I have with Jovan, because we've been able to take that land thought process and then put it into medicine. You know, take that land process and then put it into food, right? So all the things that people are worrying about, like food, clothing, and shelter, I got enough woods out there. I can build as many log cabins as I wanted to out where I live. So I'm not worried about those things anymore, you know? So I really want, people that are listening to like start thinking about the focuses that you can make. And I'm not telling everybody, oh, you got to leave from your big city and come out. I'm just
No.
saying that having a lust for land also means having a lust for those people that are on the land. Like,
Yeah.
think about those Black folks that have returned to the land, that are doing that work on the land. Like the organization SAFON, which is the Southeastern African American Farmers Organic Network. Like, they're
Okay.
doing that work. You know what I'm saying? The Black Land Justice folks, they're doing that work, you know? So
Yeah.
let's start supporting them, because, you know, we support the arts and entertainment real easy, but
Yeah.
there is an art to the craft of being able to manipulate the soil to be able to grow something, to then
That's right.
manipulate what was grown to be something beautiful on the plate. And girl, I have seen your Instagram shots from food you've made, and that shit is bomb, just so you know. So yeah, we gotta wake up, you know, and start looking at, like, everything we do as a people
Yeah.
is a craft. Everything. Not just one, not just two, but all of it is interlaced. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a hop off, because I definitely
Okay.
want Jovan to hop on,
Me.
because I'm sure she's on, she's on the. So I always tell people this: I'm the farmer. I cook
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but if you want to survive and need medicine, Jovan is the one you need to talk to. You want to birth some
Yes.
babies, Jovan is the one you need to talk to. So that
Yes.
kind of living, I can do all the other. Now, if you want to talk about fighting and how to do that kind of resistance kind of stuff, I can be your man on that too. But Jovan is definitely on centering, on growing, on consciousness about self, and how to build yourself up. I mean, I'm farm fit at 52. That's what I always tell people, and I have to, say that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes. Snap to that.
that's
Hold
a
on, let me
fact.
go.
Yeah,
So I want to thank you so much. I
you're
love your
welcome.
face, and when
Love your
outside
face.
opens up, I'm gonna make my way down to you guys. I've been talking about this for forever, but it's
Definitely.
to breathe in that Brunswick air and be with you
Come
all is gonna
on,
be
come on. You got to spend at least
good.
a week with us. You know what I'm saying? Oh,
I
and
know.
our gin is out too.
Oh,
Yeah. So we just finished. I grew the hibiscus. Jovan formulated the formula, and now we have a Gullah Geechee gin that's out, made with hibiscus, and all the
oh,
botanicals that we grew on the farm. So make sure you talk to Jovan about that, and she'll tell you some more.
yes.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
You're
Alrighty.
welcome. You're welcome. Blessings.
Blessings to you. Alrighty. So let's see. Okay, Gilliard Farms. Please check them out. Google Matthew Raiford. Just get into his TED Talks, get into his passion. You got a little taste of it, but check out Gilliard Farms if you are in that area. If you can manage to make it to his farm, just be in space with him. It's dope. So let me see if I can find Jovan. Beautiful.
Hey, hey.
How are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I'm really like living for this like 2-for-1 chat. I love it. I want to just, like I said to Matthew, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out to do this when we were thinking about who to talk to. Like, you guys would absolutely top of the list because you all have been in these like holistic streets. This is not a game for you all. This is your whole life. You have literally given your whole selves over to living off your own, being a self-sufficient and sort of relying on community and self and
Mm,
heritage in a
mm,
really intentional
mm.
way. And it's so inspiring to watch, but it's just, I don't know, it's one of those, in moments like this is when we look to folks like you
Mm,
who've been in these streets and kind of have best practices. We don't have to reinvent everything. You all have been in these
absolutely.
streets forever. So thank you is what I want to say.
Absolutely. Well, again, like, thank you. I mean, for, used to live in New York City, and we know each
Mhm.
other in person,
Yeah.
and the platform that you've built over the years, like I just have to say, is inspiring in and of itself. So thank you for doing that good food work and, you know, putting us on as much as
Mhm.
possible. It's just it's beautiful, and thank you. So yeah, so I'm the reason we're separate today is I actually have a postpartum client who I had to deliver her first 40 meals for her. So you know, as a full spectrum doula, a chef, an herbalist, and a wellness coach, part of my work, you know, is yes in the birth room, but it's also postpartum as well. And so, you know, as we're doing our social distancing, since I won't be able to do hands-on postpartum work, she's like, just can you feed me? Can you feed me? Can you get me everything that I need? And so I just stocked her fridge with all kinds of meals, soups, broths, teas, as well as her encapsulated placenta. So I'm running the Savannah streets today. So
Right. I think I wanted to talk to you. There are many reasons why I wanted to talk to you, but one of the most central reasons is because you have so many disciplines that sort of inform your practice. And in this moment, it feels a lot like if you're unsure about how to move, especially in the food world, you kind of have to get back to sort of basics. And I feel like food, nurturing people, and sort of what like a holistic life looks like has been a part of your
mhm.
life forever. Like this is just how you know how to move in the world. But you have so many disparate parts of your like career, your background. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about like the dope stew that makes up who you are.
Well, for me, I mean, I grew up in the farmers market. You know, I grew up in my grandfather's shop. He ran this, you know, he was the oil man, the shea guy. Like he would travel before it was in everything. He would travel to Africa and bring back shea butter to sell. So I was the kid who was just like, I've got all this shea butter. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. But now everybody knows about it. So he taught me how to mix oils, and I had a chance to see the seasons, like work with a spice guy who would import seasons, you know, just all this kind of stuff. And so, and for me, you know, I always called myself this kind of latent mad scientist, you know. So for me, I love playing in the kitchen. I love playing with my food. And so for me, it doesn't feel like it was all over. It was more, felt like more of like, this is just the evolution. So for me, it's having a love and a curiosity around the natural world and my connection to it. So I see my birth work as an extension of my land-based work, which is just really beautiful to be able to like tap into that and tap into that intuition and tap into that ancestral knowledge. Like this is something that was handed down to me, even though I didn't quite know it, you know, at the time. Like my great
Yeah.
grandmother, she was the neighborhood medicine woman, as well as farmer. She would take over little lots and like feed her neighbors. She would make you up, you know, whatever kind of like teas and tinctures and stuff. And so I just took that banner and ran with it, you know, from doing a rooftop garden when I lived in Brooklyn to like now being here on this land.
And please, because I mean, I think the spectrum of your services and like sort of what your practice looks like is so phenomenal. Like I think my first when you all first moved to the farm, it was this like what is it going to look like? And some of the first like entries into what you would what it was going to look like was your teas and your jams. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like we're not talking, this is not, you know, they're not playing around, this is fully branded but 100% holistic. And I mean, something about blackberries that you all pick, something about all the herbs that come off of your
Mm-hmm.
land, something
Mm-hmm.
about being able to get that taste in New York from this very particular place is it was just it was it we I think everybody knew for sure that you all wanted something, but the way you all have grown over the years and sort of
Mm-hmm.
really sort of leaned into what the land was really going to be able to give you
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. So I'm wondering, because right now it's uncertain, but for a lot of folks who have been um, adjusted or sort of outside the mainstream of our industry,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of folks are thriving in a lot of ways in terms of like people really kind of thinking more broadly about what food service and what like hospitality looks like. Like, I mean, honestly, like caterers, like we are thriving in a
How do
lot of
you
ways.
feel, how do you feel those gaps? And I think for us, I mean, it was really eerie, as you know, like, what was it, March, around March, where we were really starting to take COVID-19 seriously, and folks were talking about locking down their counties, locking down their states. And there was this moment of watching the shelves empty and everything else, and I was like, oh, everyone else is getting a taste of hurricane season.
Right,
Like,
right.
if you've never been a part, because we're on the coast, so we had two major hurricanes in the last few years. Both of those times we owned a restaurant at the time. So for us, like, bend down the hatches, like getting enough food, making sure you have water, making sure you have medicine, making sure that you had everything that you need to survive. We already had those dry runs. So when everything started happening, we started talking about shelter in place. I was like, I already knew. I know why people get toilet paper, because guess what? You could be locked down for 2-3 weeks, and you don't want to have to run out of toilet paper in the middle of being locked down. And especially when we're talking about a virus that we don't know about. Do you want to have to go find NyQuil or DayQuil on the shelves, and meanwhile you're sick and you're coughing and you're making other people sick? And so for me, when I was like preparing my family, because I originally was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, so my mom and dad are still there. My sisters live in Atlanta, and so I did my list for them. I was like, get NyQuil, get DayQuil, get some Mucinex, like get some emergency, get, canned beans, dry beans, frozen, a bag of potatoes, a bag, so I like went through, like, these are the things that you need to get. And then for me as an herbalist, I went into motion. I'd already been selling elderberry, fortified elderberry syrup. And so, I was like, let me get back in the kitchen and let me, restock my stuff, because folks are going to need this medicine. And so that's what I did. And so I made sure, for every batch that I made, I sent it to my mom and dad, which my mom was also going through radiation therapy for breast cancer. So I was making sure that they were fortified. I was sending them, hand sanitizer and gloves, because I'm a chef, so I always have nitro gloves like sitting
Right.
around. And then also, sending it to my sisters. So everything that I was making, that I was selling, I was making sure that, one, our house was taken care of. Because again, it's like that, for folks who travel, put on your oxygen mask before you try to help other people. And that's our philosophy. Let's put on our oxygen mask. Let's make sure that the medicine that we're creating, that, or the food that we're growing, or any of the things that we're doing, that we're also making sure that we're feeding ourselves. And so that's one of the things that I learned from my mentor, Dr. Lenny Sorensen, was like, any farmer that's worth their salt is going to make sure that their family's pantry is stocked before they go to the farmer's market to sell it to everybody else.
That's right. So many things. I guess I'm also thinking about your birthing practice. I mean, like, baby's still gonna be born. Like you talking about
Absolutely.
your client you're working with now. Like, how are you adjusting that practice
Mm-hmm.
currently, and like how is that looking for you?
How does that look? Well, I mean, it's so funny, because everyone's like, pivot, 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 and I'm like, I'm in a pirouette right now, So thankfully, because I already have an online wellness coaching and herbal practice, for me, going virtual wasn't that big of a deal. I already had a professional Zoom account and all of those things, and it was just finding, more like visual resources to guide people. Knowing the dismal Black maternal mortality rate. Our Black mamas are scared. They're already scared, and so this just added a whole nother layer. And this part of Georgia, we used to be flush with so many beautiful Black grand midwives, and now we're down, for our coastal area, we have one home birth midwife. And so for so many people are
Wow.
trying to stay out of the hospital, she's
Right.
booked up until to the end of the year. And for folks who are thinking of a home birth midwife, reach out to them now, because I know people who are booked up until 2021.
Okay.
So, but the other part of it is also, understanding what your rights are, understanding, labor at home for as long as possible, and all of those kinds of things, and get support. There's so many people, especially, with doctors aren't doing in-person appointments. Like right now, what I'm hearing in for folks who are pregnant is like, I just want care. I want any kind of care, just care. And so what we're finding is that they're doing, doctors are doing less appointments. It's all virtual. And so having a doula is going to be super important for folks right now to like guide you and to do that childbirth education with you and your partner, so that if you and your partner end up in the hospital alone without hands-on support, that you know what to do. You
Right.
know how to guide. And what I also find is really, crazy and amazing right now, at the beginning we were like, okay, we'll see y'all at the end of this with all the corona babies, is also there are people who are seeking fertility help right now. So I also, in addition to being a birth and a postpartum doula, I'm already also a fertility and sex doula. So we're actively working with couples who are, trying to like be calm and stress-free and bring life into
Right.
this world. So that's been really amazing to like be there with those couples as they're just, they're like, we feel kind of guilty, but we also have the time. And a lot of
Yeah.
those folks are in the food, the food industry, and they're finding that they're like, I don't have time, like normally. And so this is something that I'm thinking about. And so we need a little bit of help. And so it's been really amazing to help people, especially around, for me also, in addition to the birth work, is my specialty around wellness coaching is gut health and immunity. And so, that's been the
Yeah.
big thing. And one of the things that I'm telling people is like, look, like elderberry syrup does not cancel a bad diet. It doesn't.
That part.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't. It may help you a little bit, but ultimately immunity is a practice. And that is what I've been saying over and over. Immunity is a practice. So fresh, dark leafy greens, fermented foods, broths, like all of that kind of wonderful stuff. Like it's something that you have to do on a regular basis and not just in the middle of a global pandemic. So that's been a big part of it, is like doing that kind of education with folks. And then, also selling those products locally. So, since farmers markets are happening in some places and some are not, responding to people being scared about having access to fresh, healthy food. So I sell, sauerkraut, kimchi, in addition to the elderberry syrup and the herbal teas and everything. And so part of that for me is like, let's get this like fresh, healthy, probiotic foods into people's diets.
Well, that's interesting too. I want you, in case you would be willing to put your kind of food policy hat on for a minute, because I've like my first connection to you was through Matthew, but you all had just met when you were working with slow food. And I think it's so interesting to think about, not just in industry, but I think the country at large really has a disconnect between how our food system really works and what that chain is looking like now, because we're hearing all of this disparate information about, meat and like the food, just all these issues around, like, I feel like the issues around the inequity in the system itself, but also just access to the system and what that chain looks like is unclear for some folks. I think also the sort of, the anxiety around a potential breakdown in that system, what all that looks like. And I'm wondering what you're thinking about the state of the food system right now.
Oh my goodness. I think what's amazing about this time, even though this time is stressful and scary, I think what's amazing is that people are reaching back in and they are like tapping into that curiosity around, well, actually, how does my food get to me? So we're seeing this like resurgence of victory gardens and of folks trying to keep chickens. And I'm actually the recipient of somebody panic buying chicks, and then realizing once they arrived, I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's been really interesting to like help people, since my background is also chicken keeping in an urban, setting, and doing urban chicken keeping in Brooklyn, and now doing chickens on our farm. I help people like work through some of those issues around how do you keep chicks alive? How many should you have? How do you feed them and all those kinds of fun things. And on the other part, my food and policy hat. I also sit on the board of directors for Seed Savers Exchange. And so one of the things that I got a bird's eye view of, like being in that position, is, you know, how do seed companies and how do people access seed companies? And so, you know, I mean, also a lot of farmers groups where people are like, they're running out of seeds. And I'm like, no, they're not running out of seeds. What's happening is that everybody's buying seeds all at the same time, and they don't normally buy that much seeds at that time. And so I know for Seed Savers Exchange, at one point, they were 4,000 orders behind. 4,000 orders. So in addition to having to properly social distance, having to make sure that there's PPE for their employees and shipping, you know, and all of that. And so folks couldn't understand why all the seed companies were turning off ordering for the weekend. It's because they couldn't keep up with the demand that was out there. And so what's really fascinating is seeing people connect to that, but then also, like, once they get the seeds, they're like, how do I do this?
That's right.
And so I think that there's some curiosity there, and I also think that there are some opportunities to do some education. You know, for me, I'm very familiar. Matthew was shouting out the 5-gallon bucket method, and that's, you know, how I built my rooftop garden in Brooklyn when I lived in Park Slope, Borum Hill area. I had the whole roof to myself, so I did, you know, 5-gallon buckets, old, you know, wooden wine boxes and everything else to grow shallots, peppers, tomatoes, you name it. So I know what it means to, like, not have a lot of space and or access to soil and being able to grow. And I think people should get more curious around that. But I think also this is also I think it's a clarion call to for folks to support their local farmers. This is the time, you know, we're hearing like folks are slaughtering out all their hogs and stuff, and, like, you know, put them on the burn pile and dumping vegetables and letting them rot. And I'm like, your small farmers are not doing that. Your small family farmers are not doing that. They are trying to get their stuff that's in the ground, or the animals that have been, you know, processed. They're trying to get those into people's, like, you know, refrigerators, freezers, all of those things. So find out who's farming around you. And guess what? I can't ship a dozen eggs. People reach out to me all the time. They ask me, like, does your farm ship? And I'm like, there's some things that we can ship. A dozen eggs ain't it. So, you know, reach out to your local farmers and see who's growing. See who, you know, if you hear a rooster in the neighborhood, maybe you should go figure out where that rooster's at, because there's probably eggs not too far behind there. And then it's also figure out, you know, how can you work collectively, you know, like how can you buy in bulk? You know, for me, I always have, you know, a 20-pound bag of rice and, like, you know, 10-pound bag of, like, black beans, garbanzo beans, and everything else. So how can you, you know, use collective buying power to, like, buy a hog from a farmer, to buy, you know, a cow, to buy, you know, a bushel of tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever, and to be able to, like, work with your community, even if your community is just, you know, the people in your apartment building, to, like, pull that stuff together, to aggregate it, to process it, and to be able to share it in a way that makes sense. And, you know, and that goes also with toilet paper too, you know, like if you can go get a big thing of toilet paper and everybody kicks in $5, you break it up, everybody's got toilet paper. And so I just think that there's, like, that aspect of it that, you know, people don't understand, is, like, how can we work together to, like, share, to pool and share our resources?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest, the, like, most romantic aspect of, like, thinking about, like, going back to farming or, like, going back to land. Like, everybody has that example of, like, their grandparents. My, you know, grandparents are from South Carolina and Latta, which is, like, north, like, border North and South Carolina. And it's this idea about, like, what farming look like, or what collective power and community look like. You know, Matt talked a little bit about that with you all's relationship with the next farmer over. Like, okay, you have corn and watermelon this year, so I'm not going to plant that. You know what I mean? Like, this sense that, like, on a macro and micro level, there's ways to make collective community work.
And just so you know, it is work. It is not all
Yeah.
sunshine and rainbows and all of that stuff, especially when it comes to family and land and the
Mm-hmm.
country. And, you know, like folks up the road was trying to have family reunions while we're sheltering in place. And
Oh
we're
my
just like,
gosh.
y'all
Right.
don't, y'all not coming, y'all ain't coming here. Um, but
Yeah.
also like part of that too is like, you know, who's taking it seriously. And so for us, you know, when we were doing our buying for the shelter in place, we always buy extra, not to hoard it for ourselves, but to know that, you know, we do have elders on the property. We do have other folks who maybe don't take it as serious. And so what happens when things break down and the people who didn't take it serious don't have enough, you have to make sure that you can also like help and support whether you were planning to or not. And
That's
so I
right.
think that that's a whole nother, you know, aspect of it is like, you know, how can you make sure that your house is tight so that if other folks need some support, that your family can support without, you know, denying yourself, you know,
Yeah.
what you need as well.
Yeah. So good. Um, I want to make sure we leave time for people have questions. I was trying to follow along. I don't think most people were getting their life and amen in a lot of what you were saying, but I didn't see any specific questions so far. Um, how can we support? I mean, my thing has always been like, you know, buying your products is amazing because they are brilliant and beautifully packaged and gorgeous. You
Thank
talked
you, thank
about
you, thank you. I do all the design myself. So
it's so beautiful and like classic and eternal. Like just, I want it on shelves everywhere. But like to be able to get when you get a Sage's Larder package in the mail, it is like the most beautiful gift. So,
thank you, thank
anyhow,
you.
just outside, just in terms of is this about farming or etc. I mean, so
Yeah, and I can wrap up some of those questions too as well.
okay,
So for me, so there's, you know, so right now we're our farm is based in Brunswick, Georgia. We are in coastal Georgia, so we're zone 9A. We are subtropical and 30 miles from Florida. So that's how hot we are. Our farm is a Georgia African American Centennial Family Farm. We are organic, not certified, but we use all organic practices like our ancestors did. And so for our farm, the ways in which you buy the stuff, you know, like fresh produce, eggs and stuff from our farm, you would make sure that, you know, you would purchase locally. You know, we're not going to ship a zucchini that's not
Mhm.
really
Right.
useful, I think, for anybody in that realm. For me, my company, Sage's Larder, which is based on the farm. So I'm a herbalist, childbirth educator, doula, wellness coach, and, you know, seed saver. And so on my site, sageslarder.com, you can purchase, I do sell kombucha, sauerkraut and kimchi, as well as things like I do tinctures, I do flower essences, as well as herbal teas and remedies. And all of those I do ship. So you know, those will come in like a, you know, a mason jar. And so those things are the fermented foods and stuff like that are much easier for us to be able to package and ship. And so you'll purchase those from there. And so I think that that's a big thing is like for us is like also, you know, finding ways to connect people. There are so many different farmers all around the United States. And I think Matthew mentioned SAFON, which is a Southeast African American Farmers Organic Network, which they are, they're becoming a nonprofit. And so, you know, we're a member of that organization. And so they're really beautiful. And, you know, it'd be beautiful to be able to donate there because they make sure that they directly support, you know, Black Southern farmers like us. There's also organizations like Seed Savers Exchange, which I'm on the board of, and they do, in addition to having a seed bank and a seed catalog, they also do seed saving and seed growing education. So if you're interested in learning how to grow from seed or how to save seed or how to just garden in general, if you head to seedsavers.org, you can learn more about that. You can purchase seeds, but the education alone is totally worth it. And you can always reach out to me. You know, occasionally I'll have some extra seeds like here and there. If you're just curious about growing an eggplant or a tomato, I often have seeds that are just for my education purposes that is provided to me by Seed Savers Exchange. And so that's part of the rent that I pay for living on this earth. And so I think somebody also asked about fermented foods. So for me, fermented foods, it's all about that beneficial bacteria, and that leads towards your good gut health. So we say like our gut is actually our first brain. Our gut, directs the way our body works. It directs the way that our bodies heal, and is at the core of having a strong immune system. So fermented foods are one great thing that you can do with that. Dark leafy greens, mushrooms, broths, like all of that stuff is also going to lend towards building up a strong immune system.
That's right. Let me see what else. I think you covered most of the questions, but good. I'm glad. So the okay. I don't know what else. I feel like we always see each other in these weird spurts, and I'm just always watching you on the periphery, just being dope and wonderful and beautiful around in the world. But I think you listed it all. I feel like if people really are, how brilliant Gilliard Farms is, and how brilliant the work you're doing with Sage's Larder is out in the world. Folks should be. Hold on a second. What did Clay say?
And I know somebody said something about the gin.
Yes.
So the gin is brewed by Simple Man Distillery. Simple Man Distillery, they're based outside of Atlanta, and they work specifically with farmers to do specialty booze. And so for me, as the food alchemist and as the herbalist, I researched traditional, I already was doing my own gin, but I researched, some of the larger traditional ways of which folks were making gin, different kinds of gin. And then there was an awesome, epic 40 bottle gin tasting day as well. Since my background is also in coffee, I know how to taste without getting drunk. But the guys had a really great time. But for me, I focus on the tasting. And so for me, hibiscus is at the core of our gin. In addition to juniper, it is not gin without the juniper. So of course we have the juniper, but then there's also all kinds of botanicals, southern botanicals that we grew on our farm, which I'm not going to list them all. Most folks go to the grave with their gin recipes, and so I'm gonna stay on that tip. But hibiscus, because it's pink, so when you see it, it's pink. It's right now it's just distributed in Georgia, and we're looking to expand to South Carolina and Florida. Which, if you know anything about distribution, it's just it came out like right before stay in place and everything, and so that's one of the challenges is we haven't been able to promote it as much as we can because everybody was sheltering, and so one of the things that we'll do is we'll post some more stuff on it, but it's beautiful, it's delicious, it's great just by itself, but it's also great in cocktails because I am a huge fan of cocktail culture. So as the food alchemist, I was just it has to taste good, and it has to go well with the different kinds of drinks and shrubs and syrups that I personally make.
So yeah, y'all just a full service operation. You need for nothing. You got your cocktails, you got your beautiful food, you just all set up. I don't know, just thank you so much for taking the time. I feel like I said earlier, this moment feels for a lot of folks uncertain, but when you sort of have folks like you and Matthew in the world sort of showing us what best practices look like, it really is not as scary. I mean, culturally, we kind of have always had to adapt. So I feel like
we're out here. We are out here. Don't get it twisted. And also, I think one of the things, that I always tell people, and I tell my coaching clients as well as my doula clients, is show yourself some grace. Not everybody is gonna getting into the sourdough, and their sourdough may not live to the end of this. You may be snacking on some snack cakes, whatever. Do what you have to do to make it through the day. That is the key. That is
Yeah.
it. For us, it's about getting outside, getting some of that, that vitamin D, and being able to like work with the have rabbits, in addition to
Yeah.
dogs and chickens. And so being able to get out there and to embrace those is something that's key. Working with the flowers and the flower essences, that's something that brings me peace. But guess what? There's also nights where we're binge watching Netflix and
That's right.
chilling. Like,
Yep.
and that's
Yep.
okay too.
Yep.
Like it's like get in where you fit in, have some grace towards yourself, and like understand that we're all going through a collective moment. And so it's totally okay.
Yep. Well, thank you, lady. I
Thank
don't know. I just
you.
thinking about you guys a lot recently, and just when, like I said to Matthew, when outside opens up, I'm finally gonna get down to you guys. And
Come on down. Come on
yeah,
down. We
yeah.
just don't come in August. It's too hot, y'all.
Oh no, I know that. You didn't have to let me. No. But when it's cool enough, I'll come down. But thank you so much for doing
Absolutely.
it. And
Absolutely.
please, like Sage's Larder, Gilliard Farms, please check them out, support. Just follow them because they have the answers. They have sort of best practices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your platform. We truly appreciate it and are grateful. And thank you to everybody for listening in today.
So cool. Thank you so much, lady. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
So good. And also just we pinned it. I pinned it in the comments, but this series 11 on this channel is brought to you by Black Food Folks. Clay came in and talked to you guys about all of the amazing programming happening over on that platform. If you all think about or want to potentially contribute to the work they do, the Cash App is Black Food Folks. Just think about supporting. They just Clay Vincent and Colleen Williams. Clay Williams and Colleen Vincent run Black Food Folks really is sort of this community trust. They are so taking this time to bring you all really interesting, really holistic, really broad-ranging conversations, as you got a taste of in the intro. And I hope that you've been following the previous weeks. But that work is ongoing, and it's all, sort of community-based. So any amount helps to sort of help progress that work. So here's the Cash App. And just think about supporting. Next week, we'll be back here at 11 with Shakira Assembly. And the following week, I'll be on with Michael Twitty. So really thank you guys for joining in again this week. And I'll talk to you guys next week.